Five. Thanks for nothing. Sorry. I hate that thing. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Words Carry Us, an ongoing series of live stream events featuring readings and interviews from Greenkill in Kingston, New York. I'm Betty MacDonald, writer, storyteller, and host of Words Carry Us. Before I introduce tonight's guest, I'd like to read from my book, All My Monsters Are Dead, or Why I Love Being Old. This first one is called Dancing. I used to dance all the time. I danced through the railroad flat on the sidewalk past the push carts. In the playground, I could dance to anything. Conversations, car doors slamming. People noticed. "Are you a dancer?" "Oh no," I replied, and continued my dance. My grandkids wanted to dance. I drove them to classes. Jasper's other grandmother sent a wardrobe of outfits, some ruffled, sleek, sophisticated. Jasper danced for a few years until I got too busy. This is 1990s. I don't recall the 90s, my weekly trips to Fairlawn, New Jersey, caretaking my aunt and uncle. Constantly on call. I couldn't work because of disruptions, but I learned a lot. On the drive home, Frappuccino treat. Transformational, like surviving an earthquake. Oh boy, what's wrong with me? Transformational, like surviving an earthquake or a trip abroad. This is called Octogenarians. I wrote this about my friend who just turned 90. She was my college roommate. We go way back, my friend and I. She knew me when. After class, we stroll up Beacon Hill, our lives ahead of us, bread money spent on flowers. Her familiar voice from long ago, joyfully speaking a name that no one calls me anymore. And this last one is called The Exit Sign is Out of Order. I woke to my depression lifting, slivers of darkness like invisible razor-thin blades slid from my being. The process of abandoning this murky pit was beginning. A glimmer of change titillates me with its offer. I don't have to remain in this bleak cell of my imagination where the exit sign is out of order. Our guest tonight is Stephanie J.T. Russell, a prolific poet, interdisciplinary artist, and cultural worker. Her most recent creative nonfiction book, One Flash of Lightning, is a poetic treatment of the Samurai Code. Appointed 2023 Dutchess County Poet Laureate, Russell's Intercultural Laureate event series, Stream of Life, features poetry and art from the multicultural communities throughout Dutchess County and the Hudson Valley region. We welcome Stephanie Russell to Words Carry Us live stream. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Betty, for having me tonight.
It's delightful to have you here. I want to hear all about your artistic process, your creative life. How did you begin to be an artist? Were you a child artist, or did it come later?
Yes, as long as I could hold something to make a mark with, my mother made sure it was in my hand. And, from early childhood, I was on my mother's hip or in a stroller going to mostly the Met Museum and the MoMA. Those were her two favorites, and to galleries on 57th Street and eventually later on in Soho. But by then I was pretty much focused on my own journey, and so it's been happening for as long as I can remember. We were not an affluent family. I was a latchkey turnkey kid, grew up on the 5th floor of 43 Spring Street, and we didn't have a lot, but my mother always had books, so I was reading from her bookshelves, and books were always given to me, and there was always paper, and there was always some kind of array of art supplies I could work with. And my mother scrimped and saved and got me scholarshiped into art programs from a very young age. So it was something she had grown up with in a first-generation immigrant family that treasured classical music. Whether you liked it or not, you learned to play the piano, all 8 of them, my mother and her 7 siblings. So we were just kind of gently immersed in this field of appreciation, understanding, and actually desire. My mother had been an oboist.
So your mother was a musician.
Yes, and she also painted, I understand, but I never saw anything that she did. So that's part one. What do you want to know about my practice?
What is it like? What do you do? Why do you call it an artistic practice?
Well, something that you do that's a cornerstone or a fulcrum of not just the way that you walk through the day, but a fulcrum of consciousness, the way that you move through every sensory and extrasensory perception that is coming through you and coming to you. So for me, it's a completely integrative principle that art is a foundational piece of the way I don't know if there's an I involved. I was just talking with Daniel, who's here tonight, about the Tibetan Buddhist way of looking at the art-making process that was with me before I knew about it and then became an adopted principle. And that is, you do not make something in order to please someone else. The process of transformation that the artist undergoes that's the pinion, that's the foundation, and it's the whole reason behind picking up any sort of a tool. And because religious art is so critically important in Tibet and in that part of the year, there's also a cyclical relationship between the artist, the materials, and the intention to embody and enable this work of art to project something into the atmosphere that already exists, the cosmic bath that already exists, that we come from and we go back to. But it's also a reminder of our own ephemerality, because, if you walk through rural areas in the Himalayas and you see very often like broken down stone shrines that are just left, and you ask people, would you like us to help you to fix this? And many times they'll just say, it is old. And so the natural cycle of creation and decay, the natural forces of decay, are very present in the way in which art informs my existence as a whole.
And do you mostly write or paint or what?
Well, I came originally out of painting, theater, and music, and then somebody put a camera in my hands, and I can't take my hands off my photographs, so they could go through various processes before the finished product. Yes. And I've become a bit more digitally astute. There's an undercurrent to everything that comes through my practice, whether it is verbal language or the language of visual materials, and that is the cycle of life and death. And since my mid-50s, going back a ways now, we become more conscious as artists of the lens of age and how that brings us into these pinpoints of light that draw us to particular subjects at a given time, but the lens continues to enlarge.
Right.
And that's been my experience of aging.
Would you like to read something you've written?
Yes, absolutely. You can see I'm not unprepared, right? The host gave me fair warning. So I'm going to read something that came out of a conversation many years ago with a friend of mine whose memorial service just occurred at the Church of St. Mark's in the Bowery on Saturday, and it was a remarkable event to send this incredible theater artist, Tom Walker, off. It came out of a conversation I had with him in like 2018, and I tried to write the poem for a few years, and it just fell together about a year and a half ago. It's called Sky Burial, and it actually describes, in the beginning, gives you a glimpse of the sky burial practice in Tibetan Buddhism. The point is to be generous after you're gone, though you've nothing more to lose. Even the old yak hauling your corpse up the butte is rewarded. Once you're slid off his back onto the ice-bound sod, the drover frees him, watches him amble away, snorting in and out, then in again, purest oxygen evaporating the densest of sin. After the vultures have had their way with the body once thought of as you, the monk rises from prayer, hammers your bones down to sand rubble for the crows who've waited their turn in order of strict descent. Your mother won't grieve as if you'd been left whole. She knows the thing that lay untouched in her house for 3 days is no longer a contused hovel of mind. For this riddance of your worldly ordeal, she is thankful. For her and her kind, this is no day for wrung hands and regrets over a wasteful hole where seeds should be sown to breed new life. Unassailable sense, the instant we can be said to exist and then not. And you, bushwhacking through the bardo, are consoled, bared at last of all relics, admixture of your so-called self. Whether or not you can see the condom lifting you into ether, all that matters now is emptiness, vista of boundless risk, rough food of rebirth, vanishing in the vulture's bony jaw. I should have said before that kandum is a Tibetan term for the wrathful feminine deities who bring a soul through the end of life into the bardo. So that's sort of a short form of what it is I'm dealing with all the time now. Yeah.
There's a wonderful line about the bardo. No, I forgot it already, but it was
Bushwhacking through the bardo.
bushwhacking. Yes, I like that. So tell us about your Dutchess County Poet Laureate series.
Okay.
What you're doing there, that Stream of Life.
Yes. Stream of Life came to me during the nomination process. I was not going to write in an application, but a number of friends who had determined they wanted to nominate me encouraged me, because I could then explain in the form what it was I wished to do. And I've been an intercultural cultural worker for 50 years and more. And so I really felt very drawn to a celebration of the diversity that exists in our valley, including communities that a lot of folks aren't fully aware exist and abide here, including the South Asian community and the Ukrainian community of artists that's very active, and they put up exhibitions and do a lot of performing, and there's a handful of people who from that community and from each of the 6 communities in this project who I've invited in. So I curated curators.
So there are 6 communities.
Yes, yeah.
And how did you find them?
A number of people in my life are from the Chinese American, the Latinx, and particularly Oaxacan and Puerto Rican, the Ukrainian, and the South Asian. I know a number of South Asian poets, and I'm very close with some indigenous folks who are also artists and poets in the region. And so we've collaborated in this way, because if I didn't know someone who had curatorial capacity and desire, I was able to ask someone else. And that's one of the things I love about this region, how easy it is. It's so socially permeable here. And people are welcoming of new ideas, and they're welcoming of collaboration. It's really the kind of social contract we have here. So it wasn't hard to find people who were really interested in becoming involved. So the program will officially start with a series of readings that I'm curating for the Adrian's Memorial Library in Poughkeepsie. We will have some amazing poets, including the great Doug Anderson, Timothy Liu, Martha Rhodes, who is also the founder and director of 4-Way Books, and a number of other good folks. So I've got 9 folks reading in that series, and then the FDR very kindly opened its doors to the visitor center, and so I've got 6 events happening there that begin in April and go through November.
It sounds like a wonderful program.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and very excited about the exhibitions.
And so these are not just for poetry; these are also exhibitions of art.
At separate venues, there will be visual art exhibitions and media exhibitions. I'll be curating a series of film screenings as well at Canvas and Clothier, which is also in downtown Poughkeepsie. I live downtown Poughkeepsie. That's where my husband and I ended up rooting ourselves after we left New York City. And the downtown community is front-loaded with really interesting people from so many different disciplines, not just artistic disciplines, but a lot of activities around social justice, food access and food justice, the environment. It's a big enough place that if you would get involved in a couple of things, you might run into people from different organizations or ad hoc groups. It's really so integral to what makes this place, this whole valley, really magnetic.
I'm looking at my questions, and I believe you've answered them. Let me see.
Okay, we can stop now.
I want to hear. I want to hear about your book.
Well, One Flash of Lightning, A Samurai Path for Living the Moment was published. It's my most recent full book that was published by Andrews McMeel in 2006. And it's a poetic treatment of the classical samurai code. So I've used the couplets that introduce each concept in the samurai code and did sort of a prose poem. And it's in a sort of dreamlike teaching voice that is opening the door to these very strange couplets. I have no eyes, my eyes are a flash of lightning. That's where the title of the book was derived from. And I have no parents. The sky is my parent. So there are these terrifically evocative couplets, and I just went into sort of a trance state, treating them like mantras and listening to them silently inside my head, and let them expand themselves through my minuscule little
Where's
little
your book
mind.
available?
You can find it on Amazon. You can order it from a number of booksellers online. It's been a long time since it was published, so you don't really see it on many bookshelves or bookstore windows nowadays.
So here's a question I ask all my guests. Is anything more important than your art in your life?
Daniel, did you record our conversation today? Too bad. I don't really have a scale of importance in the way I sit with the world. I feel that I feel very permeable to what comes through me from unknown sources from within, as well as whatever it is I'm immersed in the moment. It's easier for me to say that there is nothing that is not sacred to me, and that includes the most difficult things we have to face because they're potential portals into the rebirth of growing. Right. And so Daniel and I were talking today about some commonalities I think we identified in the way that we hold our artistic life in the context of its interweaving with life as a whole. What we think we understand, we're often led to something that's completely opposite, is something I took away from that conversation, because it's a river flowing through you, and it's in constant motion. And the more we sit with that river, the longer we sit with that river and allow it to change the atmosphere within us, the more we learn, the more forms of life we see and feel and can identify in that river. So what's most important to me is that human beings are born with the right to find freedom in themselves. And it's usually not happening until they come to some kind of consciousness of how to get free of the conditioning that starts happening as soon as we're born, and the pressures and the stressors. And so I don't see things really in compartments or silos that way. It's all working together, and sometimes not working together, and then you have to just go deeper.
And it's all important.
Yeah.
So here's one. Has COVID impacted your art or your life as an artist?
Yes.
How is that?
Well, my dear friend Susan Shute, whom you know, the founder and curator of Next Year's Words, a really beautiful reading series that occurs in New Paltz. We had got in the habit, when we both moved upstate, of going across the river to one another's homes and sitting and writing together and reading our work to each other and offering counsel or feedback. So the day after the lockdown, we were supposed to have got together, I think, at my home, and I got her on a FaceTime call, and she was very, very disappointed. I said, Susan, look, we're looking at each other. You know, we're talking to each other. Let's just do this. Why don't we book some time for tomorrow and see how it goes? And that day was completely transformative for both of us because we each felt blocked about a given manuscript that we were working on. And we decided to meet again the next day. And then we said we should invite our friend Joni. And the three of us met from Monday to Friday every week through October of that year, from March to October of the year 2020.
You were a pod.
2 hours a day. And we, all three of us, because, we'd go on mute, we'd do a little catch up in the beginning, and then at the end of the week we would share our work.
Nice.
And that was so lovely and gave me a sense of tremendous peace in community with folks whose work I dearly respected and enjoyed. And it seemed to have a kind of ripple effect through the entirety of the rest of that whole intense first year and a half of COVID. I have to say that it really, it was a very healing time for me.
Do you have something to read from that period? Okay.
Yep. Some ways to say mask. What if this mascarilla draws up threads of light and time from beneath the forest floor? What if this kimama ushers your dead to the navel of renewal? What if this pikum, veil between breaths, is grandmother's conundrum of mourning? This quinago, molded to the face of the world, portal to beauties of variation. This senata, a path that is single, known only to its walker. What if these parda were not stonewall, nor camouflage, nor shrouds, nor prophylaxis against a worst imagining of what you can become? What if these habiliments hide nothing, reveal all, lead back to the knowing that you are not alone in this or any other state of due transition? That when the kinapak is unloosed, what's left is this web of self and selves, taste of air and pine, a gratitude on the skin. Your eyes in shadow, threads of light and time, unveil the way home.
And have you something from One Flash of Lightning that you would like to read?
No, I decided not to do that. I decided
Okay.
to do something else to end this
Let's
lovely
do-
conversation.
Let's do what you
And
want to do.
And I want to thank you again that you invited me, and we've had some time together before this to talk, and it's just been really great to connect with you and the kind of ethos of generosity you bring into this series.
Thank you. And I appreciate that, and I'm so honored that you're here.
So I seem to have misplaced the front page. I'm old. What can I say? You're going to have to wait for me. And we can all just breathe a little bit.
So I'll ask you another question while you're looking. Have we missed anything? Is there something you want to speak of that we haven't touched?
Well, I guess I want to just acknowledge that the artist's life is a life of risk. It's a life of material risk. It's primarily a life of, it's a path really, of self-abandonment, that the great work comes when something is flowing through an artist that may originate in the ego, but the great work is carried on something else that perhaps the ego is able to provide a little energy or machinery to, but that's not what you're thinking about. Just like I believe if you have the luxury of a deathbed, or if you get hit unexpectedly by a Mack truck, that you're prepared to leave with grace. And so that's what's driving a lot of my sense of work, which is becoming more like a sense of play. I'm going to read this poem called A Gratitude that begins with an epigraph from the great indigenous leader and teacher Tecumseh. If you find no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies with yourself. A gratitude. Lit like a gross anatomy clinic painting, this lesson is staged on a rostrum equipped for dissections of loss. In an orbit of sober flame, the student pinches cadaver skin where breastbone meets the rind, listening for instruction. Standing to one side, scalpel idly pendant at his hip, mouth ajar mid-phrase, the master describes how to part the intercostal framework around a deadened aorta. Like the greenhorn surgeon, I wait to receive direction, but a different rule of incision is required here. Disclosure of a gratitude trapped beneath the sternum. I've been told that methods exist to peel back ligatures of remorse, that it's possible to reveal plural vestiges from more innocent times. So enticing a risk, I've lain down at last in the histology lab, rib cage open to the air, unmoving pupils fixed on the student hand, steadying its virgin cut. Perhaps being opened up this way is just another thing to be grateful for. Is thank you ever enough? Or is it a kind of death, severance from imaginary completion? But I was done with all that we like to say when there's no end in sight. I ache to circumnavigate the ovoid autopsy stage, pace it out till floorboards wear thin as wasp wings, and my soles thicken like deckhand callus at sea, till some nameless primal spark sears a pinhole in the veil, spiraling back in time to you, the one who should be thanked. Suppose this necktie-shaped bone group shielding the plexus was designed to attest we're intact, all indication to the contrary. More incubator than armor, tabernacle vault where sinew propagates the sin, till a germ of reprieve penetrates the muggy plasma and exhale quits the cells. Has every act that's come before been a paving stone set down in reverse to my first sip of oxygen, first gaze into another's heatful lens? Only then I see the midwives who encircled me all along, who came and went in shifts as I squirmed outward to rebirth. This breath, cherry sweet with wonder, is as near as I'll ever come to honoring the price you paid, while teaching me the scalpel's edge is softer than dawnlight on the skin.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful. I enjoy your work so much,
Thank you.
and it's a pleasure to speak with you here. Tonight's guest at Words Carry Us, a live stream from Greenkill, has been Stephanie Russell, Dutchess County 2023 Poet Laureate. On exhibition in the gallery at Greenkill, the work of Gary Ivor Morris, Sean McCarthy, and Margaret Still from Saturday, March 2nd to Saturday, April 27th. You're invited to view the work and celebrate the opening of the exhibition at a party Saturday, March 2nd from 5 to 7 p.m. Exhibition hours for the 2024 season are Saturday and Sunday, 1 to 6 p.m. To arrange for a special appointment to visit the gallery, please call us at 347-689-2323. Or email us at 229greenkill@greenkill.org. Located at 229 Greenkill Avenue in Kingston, New York, Greenkill is a public arts performance and education space. For more information about exhibitions, as well as live stream and live audience events, contact us at 229greenkill@greenkill.org. As always, we are grateful to David Schell, who organizes, directs, and makes things happen here at Greenkill. Our thanks to Shirley Hoffman-Warren, who composed and performed our musical theme with the assistance of recording engineer Jason Warren. Many thanks to you for tuning in and watching us on YouTube. And very special thanks to tonight's in-studio audience. Thank you. Again, our guest tonight on Words Carry Us live stream from Greenkill has been Stephanie Russell. I hope you've enjoyed Words Carry Us for February 20th, 2024. I am your host, Betty MacDonald. Greenkill out.